So today's the day I have to pay up, huh?
Yeah, baby.
Mm-hmm.
You guys hungry?
Yeah, fogo de chow.
I'm not really that hungry, but I do want you to pay for the steak. So I'm just going to order it and then maybe take it home and give it to the dog.
Let me ask
Okay.
you. So have you?
Although that's not how Fogo works.
Is Fogo not a steak?
I
figured
it's endless steak.
I think it was a steak with like coffee. Wait, what?
Endless steak.
Oh, this is like some kind of Twilight Zone episode where I'm not that hungry, but I win a like endless buffet kind of thing.
It's like an experience.
Have you never been to a Brazilian steakhouse?
I think maybe one time in my 20s.
Like where you had the coaster where it's green or red and then they just bring you
No,
meat?
I think Oklahoma's Brazilian coaster technology is lagging behind the global standard.
So this is how
Okay.
it goes. You go and sit down, and there are a bunch of kindly men who look like they've worked at a steakhouse for about 70 years.
Okay.
That are
Love
of
it.
various different. You don't know which ethnicity it is, but it's probably Latin, maybe Italian.
Okay.
Like gamble that it's either Greek or Macedonian. But they're all swarthy men, and they all have skewers of various meats. And so all of us will get little coasters that are either green or red. If it's green, they will just come up to your plate, rap, 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 and just like shave off like 3 cuts of whatever meat that they have. If you want more, you can say more. And that just keeps happening until you turn over your coaster to red. And they're like, okay, we have filled this person with meat. Now, at any moment, you could turn that sumbitch back to green and you can start meating it up again. The real big key is they also have a very good salad bar, and it's a controversial thought on whether or not you want to get a little salad course in, because you're going to be laying a lot of meat on top of it, and you might need a little kindling to get that power load out later in the day.
You know what? I ate a lot of vegetables yesterday, and maybe that'll grease the old intestines so that I can just like load up on dead cow.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of different kinds.
And everything.
Yeah, you get to try everything. I think I checked this morning. The menu had like 15 different meats.
Cuts
plus
of meat.
the
Am I
salad bar.
allowed to talk to these old men without using a coaster? Because I don't eat pork.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, you just say no.
Okay.
They come up, they have a little
They'll tell
thing.
you
There's
what
not
it
like a
is.
pork coaster that I need to. They would.
No.
It's just green
No,
or red.
It's not like an all you can eat sushi thing where you have certain.
Because like for a
levels.
minute I was thinking this is kind of like semaphore, except with meats. But that's just an on-off switch.
What's a semi for?
Yeah.
When you communicate with flags on a ship in the 19th century?
That's
what you
a
know.
reference we
That's
would know.
what you know. You've never been to a Brazilian steakhouse, but on first reference, it's like semaphore.
Yes, exactly.
I'm like, the BuzzFeed guy's new startup?
Yeah, it sounded kind of like a international spy agency. I was like, semaphore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So wow. So this is going
Oh,
to be your
I'm
first time to
excited.
to a fogo de chao.
And now that I think about it, we're recording at like 11:15. I haven't eaten anything yet today. So by the time we go out to eat, I'll probably be.
Normally, yeah, we're done around 2. So
Yeah.
that's going to be a little peckish.
Yeah, yeah.
And by the time that we actually drive, we got to go downtown.
Right.
You're going to be ready to fuck some Brazilian steakhouse up, dude.
Nice.
It's gonna be
Okay.
perfect.
All right. This is going to be a good Wednesday for heating.
Yeah. Joe was like, what do you want for dinner? And I'm like, nothing. I will not be eating for
I
a
know.
week.
I was thinking about skipping breakfast, and then I wound up not doing it because I think I'd be a little too agitated by the time that
Yeah.
we do this show.
I would be an asshole on the show the whole time.
I've started I don't eat till noon anymore most days. Like I'm not
Why?
really. I don't know. I rise from sleep as if from open heart surgery. So I'm already like not engaged. And I think my stomach also takes a long time to get online. So I'm usually not hungry till like maybe 11 anyway. And
It's very European.
yeah. And then, I've been reading stuff about intermittent fasting and I'm like, well, if I'm not hungry anyway,
Yeah.
like why not just delay eating until noon when I'm actually hungry and like skip a meal?
You should go with the Italian diet.
Mhm.
The Italian diet is wake up, maybe a biscotti. They have like cold cuts often, but it's like 2 espressos, nothing until lunch.
I do drink a fair, like what I've been doing for our show is I pre-make a Stanley thermos of coffee the night before, and I preload a bunch of stories onto a reconstituted iPad mini I bought online. And then I don't even get out of bed. I just pour myself coffee and read for an hour and a half. It's great.
Yeah,
I
that
get
sounds
paid
good.
to do
Right on.
this. It's lovely.
Yeah.
There you go. I've been stretching in the morning because I'm a creaky old hag. So
I didn't want to say anything. You've been a bit creaky lately. I'm glad you're working on your limberness.
Yeah.
I've had to not work out because I fucked up my ankle. I think I might have a hairline fracture.
Ooh.
What were you doing?
Scooting to Heaton's to hang out a week and a half ago. And
is that when we went to Cosmic?
Yeah.
You held it well. You weren't complaining. I would have been complaining.
I
You
did
didn't.
not realize that I had fucked it up that bad until the swelling didn't go down for a week. And it looked like blood had pooled at the bottom of my foot. I was going there on a scooter, and now the scooters are not light like they used to be. They're all very heavy, so you can actually like hit a bump and not possibly fall off them. The bad news is that when a car cuts you off trying to look into traffic on Ben White Boulevard and you are trying to like stop it so you don't run into their car, and you get off, and I'm doing like the Fred Flintstone of like trying to stop it. It like fishtailed, like whipped into this part of my leg, and it was like,
that sounds fucking
So
painful.
you got like hit by the scooter.
Like on the funny bone?
yeah. I don't know where it's right above the ankle, like so, like it is like just above the knot of the ankle. Anyway, I've just been walking, so I just walk 3 miles in the morning as opposed to doing my actual workout.
I broke my
That's good
ankle
exercise.
5 years ago, and man, that took a long time to heal. Partly because I didn't realize I broke it. I was in Santa Fe with some friends, and there were these trees that were growing up out of the sidewalk at like a 180. And one of my friends is like, "You could run up that tree, Heaton. Run up that tree." Wasn't wearing cowboy boots, didn't have shielded ankles. Came back, stepped in a hole, crack. Like just broke the thing. But I didn't think you could break an ankle by like twisting it. You can. And so I like took a day or two off and then started walking on it, and then it would puff up and swell. And I ended up having to have a boot for like 4 months. And I have never had more compliments dancing in my life. Like I went to a wedding, because when you're pivoting on a boot, people are like, "Oh, look at that brave guy." And it's like, I'm just as shitty at dancing without the boot.
Yeah.
But now I look like I'm trying.
Very nice.
I'm
injury free right now.
Look at you.
Probably because of all the stretching. That's why I'm doing
Is this
it.
your new thing? You're going to be like a super evangelist about stretching?
No.
Wait,
I need it.
can I ask about the stretching thing? I've tried this yoga stuff before.
Yeah.
And it just has no appeal to me.
I hate it.
But for people that really like yoga, they innately like it, right? It's not just an outcome-based thing, like they enjoy it. Do you enjoy the stretching, Jen?
So what I'm doing, I'm using an yoga app, but I'm not doing the yoga settings that they have. I'm doing what's called restorative yoga. So it's just like stretching. Most of the time I'm like sitting on the floor, sometimes laying down, but I'm not doing all that shit that's upside down, because like downward dog, fuck right off with all of that. And whenever you do actual yoga, they want you upside down for like half the class. I'm just not doing it. So I'm enjoying the stretching because I know.
You seem very upset with the concept of being upside down.
Oh, I hate it. Just
You would
like the
hate
blood
Australia.
rushes to my head. Well played. No, the stretch, like I know I need to do it if I'm going to be playing sports as much as I am, but I need to have like someone being like, you have to do this. Otherwise my stretching will be 30 seconds and I'll be like, oh, that's good enough. And I'll skip half the body. So like this app is at least telling me like, okay, 20 minutes, you're going to hit the whole body. So I'm using it, but I wouldn't say that I'm like doing yoga. Like I'm not taking classes out in the wild, because the minute they say downward dog, I'm rolling up my mat and I'm going home. So
I had to do a yoga retreat once for a work thing.
how was that?
Twice a day. Hour-long yoga.
Where the hell were you working?
Yeah.
A yoga
The
factory?
Bay Area.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, hippies.
That'll do it.
We're mandatory yoga vacations. It's a whole story that I've told, and it does not make me sympathetic because it involves me actively complaining about going to Mexico for a week. But it was a mandatory yoga thing, and I was not the biggest fan. I'm not a natural fan of yoga in general. I don't necessarily hate it, but I very much hated it and resented it because I was told that I was mandatory to do.
Yeah.
And then I did it. It was fine. The biggest thing was that I fell asleep during the like lay
Shavasana.
down part.
Yeah.
The child
And
pose.
so it's like,
No, corpse pose.
Oh,
you
better.
literally
So you
lay on
literally
the
just
floor.
lay
It's
down,
great.
right?
It's the best part.
Yeah, but also I just fell asleep because I can fall asleep easy, and I'd start snoring, and then it's like, well, that's bad. And I'm like, well, then why the fuck did you make me lay down and like close my eyes if you didn't want me to fall asleep? That and also I'm a farter, so I farted a lot during yoga, and like,
You did not.
of course, you're putting yourself in positions to fart, and so it's like, all right, is this just ritual humiliation for me? Like, are you just putting me in situations where you're gonna? It's like, oh, please open your butt cheeks and like lean in a certain way for which farting happens. And then I do. And they're like, oh, that's gross. Stop doing that. Lay down, close your eyes, clear your mind, stop snoring. Like, just, I don't know. I thought it was bullying.
Or were you behaving badly so that you could get out of the future classes and go to the bar?
Well, I mean, I was already at Mexico. Like, so they couldn't fly me back.
Was it like an all-inclusive? So there's better things to do and they're forcing you?
No, it's a whole thing. They were going to take the whole team there because there was a co-founder that was really, really into yoga, and for purposes lacking, I don't want to get into personal things. Anyway,
Okay.
I wasn't a gigantic fan. And so I was like, hey, everybody else go. I'll stay back and pick up. We were doing scavenger hunts. It's like, so like the business still has to run. I'll just stay back and pick up the slack. You guys have a really good time. Enjoy it. There were some people there that were really, really into yoga. They were really excited about it. And I'm like, not here to yuck on anybody's yum. I'll stay back.
Yeah.
I then get told, hey, it's a real drag on morale if we all don't go. So as a personal favor, can you go? And I was like, well, I do a bunch of other stuff. I do internet stuff. Like, I need internet. They were going to take us to a place that had no internet. It was like a real fucking wellness thing in Sayulita, Mexico. And I was like, well, I can't do that because I have obligations to do. At that time, I was writing a blog, blah, blah, blah. I was getting paid for. And they were like, okay, well, we'll do 1 week where we're in town. But we just basically rented out a motel. So it wasn't like an actual, like all-inclusive or anything like that. It was okay. I mean, look, Sayulita is beautiful. I had a good time there.
But you're not a natural yogi. It's not your calling.
No. Although I have stretched more recently with straps. Like I have like a strap that
yeah. Nice. Good job, Justin and Ashley.
Comedian, he said straps, go.
Yeah.
You know the strap?
Yeah, I do.
You know?
Yeah.
Do you strap them on?
On my feet.
Oh.
And
that's
then
interesting.
Sounds like he's using it wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, you. From Austin, Texas, I'm Justin Robert Young.
I'm Andrew Heaton.
I'm Jen Briney.
And we're not wrong on this edition of the program. We're going to talk about the decision by journalistic outlets to not publish hacked information from the Trump campaign, as well as sports betting, which might enter its 38th state in the union after Election Day, and whether or not it should be national, as well as your emails. We finally have a date, time, location, and available ticket link for our Chicago show.
Can't make it.
You son of a bitch.
Sorry.
Lies.
It is going to be the 18th Greenhouse Theater in Chicago, and you can find the link. If you are a patron, you could, I put out a blast last week. Otherwise, you can go to my Twitter, twitter.com/Justin R. Young. Pinned tweet is the ticket link up top. Find stuff there. It looks like we're going to have a great crowd. We've already gotten reports. People are flying in from various places around the country to come see the show. And we have an announced special guest, the one, the only Tom Merritt, will be joining us live on stage in Chicago. And it looks like I'm going to be there too. The reason why we had a special guest was because I didn't know whether or not I would be a father by the time that this show came around. Looks like through the various different checkups, baby is not expected by this Sunday. And so I will be in the Windy City for our live show. Are you guys excited?
I'm super excited. And I'm really excited Tom's joining us. He's going to be great for our first guest. So,
and we're saving a topic that we would have otherwise talked about on this show. And that is a situation that touches us all deeply and personally. And that is Patreon making changes to their process,
which is to say all of our livelihoods.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like foundationally to our livelihoods. Like when Google saw like Open AI Chat GPT and was like, oh, fuck. That's what I had Monday morning. Like at 8 a.m. I texted Justin, was like, you see this shit?
Yeah. And then I texted you guys in tears. He's like, oh my God. So I'm just excited to have that conversation, not only with you guys and Tom, because like Tom understands this text world better than anyone on the planet, but then also the people that pay us are going to be there too. So just to get their opinions on this, like, I just think it's perfect timing to talk about it at the live show. So yeah, I'm very excited for not only being with you guys in the Windy City and meeting people, but I feel like that's going to be an essential conversation.
And then we will also be there for the Democratic National Convention in Chicago.
Is it going to be fun now? I thought it was going to be super fun when it was going to be like flaming dumpster fires and riots and having knife fights on the floor between Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris. But like now it sounds like they've locked the whole thing down.
The outside, there are going to be protests. So I listened to a few podcasts where, activists are and like their plane tickets are purchased, like they're common. So apparently Thursday, the night Kamala's speaking, that's supposed to be the big protest. So that's still happening. But the event itself, like I texted you guys because I was just kind of like, oh, I'm just going to see the hotel prices. And near the event, they were about $800 a night when I first booked my hotel. And I was like, well, I guess I'm going to be commuting from afar because, I'm not paying $800 a night. The prices have dropped in half. And my theory collapsed. And my theory is because the delegates have already voted via Zoom, why the fuck should they have to go? Because their job, the reason for the convention is no longer valid. So I think a lot of people are not going.
I'm pretty sure I can't get a refund on my ticket. I'm going to have to look into this. Like, I don't think I paid $800, but it was excessive though. Like for the money on the hotel. Yeah. Like it was a lot, right?
I only booked it yesterday.
Really?
Yeah.
Is this just like a standard trick? You wait till the very last minute?
Well, for big events, I have found there's only 2 times to book it advantageously, either 6 months in advance or like the day of. Okay. So like, for example, when we were in Milwaukee, we were first getting our credentials and everything. It was like the hotel where the Florida delegates were staying. It was a major, it had its own conduit into the press area. And when we were checking our bags just so we could walk around, the people at the desk were like, yeah, we have rooms available right now in a way that they had been sold out for months because life happens. People have to cancel for one reason or another.
They have kids with Ashley.
And so these things just aren't, they're more flexible right before a thing happens.
Yeah.
And so for this reason, I mean, I guess maybe they just overestimated how many people were going to be there or
some of these hotels were sold out, especially right at McCormick Place.
Yeah.
And so I was shocked to see rooms at all. But Andrew, to answer your question, my strategy with this is to always book something just to lock it down, but make sure that I have free cancellation.
Yeah. Okay.
Then I put in my calendar a few days before, just check. And this is precisely the reason why I do that. So I was able to cancel.
I think I did it through my business credit card, like the Amex portal or whatever. Which
if it's Amex, you can always.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. Amex is very, very friendly with, for whatever reason, you just say, I will not be paying it. And Amex says, yes.
Okay, great. I'll check on that later today.
Maybe I can save some money. Friendly.
Yeah, so you can get a little closer.
Yeah. Okay, great.
But yeah, so I've spent 2 nights in Vegas over the weekend for DEF CON.
Oh, yeah.
And the Resorts World was twice as expensive than staying a block from the DNC this weekend.
Why?
Because Vegas is actually just expensive now.
DNC doesn't have Cirque du Soleil. DNC has a bunch of fucking nerds. Vegas, strippers, gambling, drugs. These reasons to me are very clear.
Very clear.
You pay more to stay a day.
Very, very clear. Yeah.
I mean, facts.
Yeah.
Although have you guys been to Chicago before?
Yes.
Have you been to Chicago? Chicago before?
Like when I was like 14, not as an adult.
Oh, okay.
Windy
It's
City?
a great
Second city?
in the
I'm-
summer.
Coddling Town?
I'm really looking forward to eating
City with
pizza.
too many nicknames?
Oh,
eating-
it's so good. Do you want to get deep dish with me?
Yes.
It's the one thing I want to
I
get.
plan to get deep dish every day.
Nobody
okay,
likes deep
perfect.
dish.
Bullshit.
Nobody does.
Okay.
Chicago didn't
Well,
like
then
it.
you're not invited.
Okay, look, I think I've mentioned this before, but like pizza is just a cheese delivery mechanism. I love cheese. Like
too
if
much.
I were on a space
much.
station, I would just have them splooge cheese into my mouth with a caulk gun. But as
That's
it is,
true.
we have gravity, so I got to have something to put it on, and that's pizza. And if I can get deep dish pizza,
Oh, yeah.
fuck yeah.
So I get roasted for saying that I stretch with a strap, but this guy gets nothing for cock gun, huh? Just
I mean,
skates on
there's an
by
L in
on
it.
cock gun.
It's too easy.
Cock.
There's an L.
He even said it was in his mouth.
Yeah, I said splooge too, yeah.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, the one problem with the deep dish pizza, though, is that sometimes what's deep in the dish is the dough.
Yeah, it's lasagna.
Okay.
But sometimes it's a shitload of cheese.
Handheld
so-
lasagna, also good.
It's not handheld.
You
It
can't
just gets.
you
it
can't
just
hold
gets-
up the pizza?
It just
Oh,
gets
I
like
fucking
put on a
will.
plate.
challenge accepted.
You can.
It's a fork and knife.
I've got
food.
real strong hands.
Doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to be from where.
I like to eat with my
You
hands.
handhold eat deep dish pizza.
I handhold eat
Look,
everything
why did
that's
we even
physically
fight
possible.
the
I'm-
Italians in World War II if we can't eat pizza how we want?
Yeah, I'm like an animal. I like to pick things with my hands. So
Deep dish pizza.
depends. Yeah. I used to go to BJ's. The original BJ's pizza was in Laguna. I think it was the original, but it was like 8 tables. It was teeny tiny. And it was deep dish pizza. And I would just pick up my fucking slice and eat it.
That's not the pizza that's there.
It's
pizza that's
hopefully more
there-
sloppy. I want it more sloppy
Yeah.
with cheese. Andrew and I want sloppy with cheese.
Mhm.
Well, you're gonna get it.
We
Yeah.
splooge it into our faces.
It takes
Mhm.
it takes like 70 minutes to make,
Mhm.
and it sucks.
It's so good.
What are you going to eat in Chicago?
Tavern pizza. That's what they really like. That's the local.
What's tavern pizza?
Or Italian beef. That's another big local local thing.
I'll eat all of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will have to tap out before you guys will, because
Eating or
Because
on
your
Chicago?
broken ankle?
no, I'm just gonna leave the DNC before you guys.
Oh.
I'm not going to be there for the final. The final 3 nights. I'm only going to be there for Biden getting cucked on night 1.
Apparently Obama's speaking on night 1, so you at least get that
No, he's speaking on night 3.
Monday. Read it this morning.
Really?
Really,
Hillary
really.
Clinton was scheduled yesterday.
Oh God, she's gonna be there. That's the.
It's good. It'll be
people.
cooler.
Um,
But yeah, Obama's a good one. to
Obama
see.
was scheduled for Wednesday, at least the last I saw. And Biden is on night 1, the sitting president of the United States.
So you get 2 presidents in one night. That's pretty good.
That. I am very curious the vibes on Biden. I think that they're going to give him the old college try. I'm curious his energy.
You're curious his energy. He's a corpse. It's gonna be low.
I mean,
Spoiler alert.
well, but he might be able to do the
I so hope.
State of the Union.
I so hope he
He was
changes his
he was
mind.
awake for that.
Give him some drugs.
Yeah.
As someone who's just rooting for a really fun dumpster fire to report on, I hope he changes his mind. I hope he gets up and goes, "I'm not dropping out."
The report today,
This is my party.
the
God
leaked
damn it.
Axios thing was like Kamala Harris won't say it, but her team will. They want to break from Biden.
Huh?
And it's like,
Like drop out as vice president?
well, the Kamala
How does
campaign
that
is
work?
like so strange right now. It is smooth. Kamala Harris is just a pearl that emerged from the ocean, dripping with expectation, and you just look into it and you see yourself. But she is for and against anything that you would like.
That, like
She is
every-
a part of the administration, but she is not a part of the
She's a
administration.
quantum
She is-
executive?
Exactly.
They still have
Wow.
no policies on the Harris Waltz website.
The only
None.
thing that she has said from her lips that is new, aside from her stump speech, which is a lot of boilerplate, is that she is also for no tax on tips.
Yep, I saw that.
Like Donald Trump's
both candidates are
Snickers.
playing for Vegas.
Okay. I mean, with Patreon making the changes they're making, at
yeah.
least we could use that.
yeah, maybe. Have you all seen like every
Oh,
headline?
no, she very specifically said for service workers.
Yeah.
So.
I'm performing a service, bitch.
I've seen so many headlines the last week that have some mutation of Kamala Harris running on Joy. Have you seen that? Like Joy is now the
new firmware has been downloaded. Yeah.
Justin, you would know this world better than I. Is there an email list serve that everybody gets where they're like, hey, just think about New York Times maybe saying that Kamala Harris is a joyful candidate? Because it gets repeated so much that there's some kind of coordination or copycatting going on.
There are emails that go out for talking points.
But aren't those internal?
Yeah, amongst people that are in the Democratic Party. So you'll get nearly daily talking points of like, here are the things to hit. If you're on television, if you're talking to a reporter, you want to say they are happy warriors. They are joy. The freedom is a big thing that they are pushing. We are not restrictive. We are for your freedoms, your freedom to do X, Y, or Z, right? Where I think the headline hurting happens is while Kamala and Tim Walz are not talking to reporters in a public setting, their team and apparently Kamala herself are talking to the reporters that are on the buses and planes with the campaign. So there's like a traveling coterie of reporters. So there is a communication there. And as a gratitude for that happening, because it doesn't need to, I think you often see some of these talking points that they want that are laundered into the story directly. So they are, if it feels like a very integrated campaign messaging and coverage, it's because that is the only thing that they are doing. They are playing a very inside game. They are not risking Kamala talking without a script.
But once you're inside, do you ever really leave? So like Jen Psaki is the example I have in my head because she was their press secretary. Now she's on MSNBC.
No, she's an objective, neutral journalist on MSNBC.
Like, do you think she still gets talking point memos or do they?
Fuck yes.
Yeah, of course. So
yes.
I think like the answer is sort of
yes. But he's talking about like Vox, New York Times, like AP.
Still, they have insiders that play the same revolving door game.
No, they don't all go directly in defense of the traveling journalist corps. They are not all Jen Psaki. Like Jen Psaki, that pipeline is like the George Stephanopoulos pipeline, where you are a press secretary, then you wind up on television. That is not usually the people, quote unquote, on the bus. Those are traveling print reporters traditionally. Now they're online. But I think even the outlets pay the campaigns sometimes to place their reporters in the limited steerage of whatever vehicle they're traveling in. And then the benefit of that is that the press secretary is talking to the reporters a lot more about details, leaking little things that they want out there. And then every once in a while, the candidate comes back and just answers some off the record stuff. But if they're getting off the record stuff and everybody is saying, joy, 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 this is joy, we're happy, joyful warriors, then they are running with it. The question is, how long can you be cowed by that when they won't do an interview? They're definitely not going to do an interview before the DNC. So knock another week off because they keep saying at the end of the month, which means after the convention.
I'm going to apply Hanlon's razor here and say it's mostly laziness. So like, you all remember 2 years ago when there were all these stories about UFOs in the news and like how the Pentagon had admitted that UFOs exist? All of them were just commenting on one New York Times story from two people. That was the entire media ecosystem, was article after article after article commenting on an article that was dubious published in the New York Times. But everybody that was doing it knew like, oh, fuck, UFOs, this is great. So they were all doing it because it was good clickbait shit. And then like just kind of laziness. I could see somebody being out of the loop going, I don't know, everybody's talking about how joyful she is. I guess I should talk about how joyful she is rather than, figure out something to talk about by reading other newspapers and doing actual independent research.
I would say that is the kind of stuff that makes me want to die. The fact that we have really like no even differential opinions from the different outlets. Like in a bygone era, NBC would report things different than CBS, which would report things different than ABC, which would report things different than like Rolling Stone. Rolling Stone would be a little bit more activist-y, but every once in a while you would have like a Matt Taibbi who would be very aggressive and very kind of journalistic. The various different television news outlets would report things, some more favorable to certain candidates than others. It is very homogenous. And that is sad to me. It just makes me sad.
Yeah, there's again, I'm going to attribute it to laziness. So when I worked at Fox Business, you became aware of this ecosystem that existed in terms of where news comes from. So wacky thing happens at local level, blog, maybe local news channel.
Yes.
Wacky thing gets picked up by daily newspapers, but like, Business Insider, BuzzFeed, stuff like that. Talking heads don't want to go do independent research.
Yes.
And so they just every day we would get 15 newspapers and go, we could talk about that shit.
And that is why television news is terrible and not real news.
Yeah.
And that is what used to differentiate print news. Print news, you used to know what everybody else on the beat was also reporting. And the most humiliating thing you could fucking do is write something similar. Like the point was to differentiate. If the guy from the AP is reporting on how joyful they are, then you want to differentiate yourself by saying, yeah, but let's talk to these gossip protesters that are still mad or something like that. Like you wanted to find a different lane. The problem is that if you find different lanes now, then the press secretary freezes you out and you don't get fucking anything because they have zero tolerance for people that are off message. And so that's why everybody's reporting joyful now, is because they don't want to be frozen out as we move into the home stretch, because either the outlet is going to replace you with a trained monkey who will just keep their access and run exactly what the press secretary wants, or you will stay on, you just won't get the easy scoops and you'll have to actually just report on stuff, which is harder.
Ass kissing for access.
Essentially. But there we go. And you can't argue with success. They have consolidated the Democratic base and they are experiencing a boom. We'll find out exactly how long it will last. I don't know if Kamala is going to remain the perfect smooth pearl that she is right now forever, but we will see.
Did that pearl come from the Black Sea or the Indian Ocean? Do you know?
The FBI is investigating claims that sensitive documents from the Trump campaign were stolen in a cyber attack, with the campaign suggesting Iranian involvement. The allegation follows a Microsoft report highlighting foreign efforts to interfere in this year's election, mentioning the Iranian military unit targeting presidential campaigns in June. The Trump campaign has not yet provided evidence of Iran's involvement, but claims the documents were illegally obtained to disrupt the election. The source of a leak appears to be an anonymous AOL account that shared a research dossier on Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, with news outlets including Politico and The Washington Post. Iran has denied involvement, though it has a history of cyber attacks and has previously threatened retaliation against Trump for the death of General Qasem Soleimani. Microsoft reports that foreign influence efforts, especially from Russia and Iran, have increased recently, focusing on disrupting the election. However, unlike the 2016 hack of the Democratic National Committee servers, news outlets have, at least not to the moment of our conversation, published the material that was sent to them. And so I ask you, Jen Briney, should news outlets have published this hacked information?
I think it depends on what's in the hacked information. Like if it's actually substantive information, like the 2016 DNC emails told us that they were really tipping the scales in favor of Hillary Clinton. Like we learned some really important things about how the Democratic Party was operating that I found to be important news. But if these are just emails where Trump is discussing his favorite McDonald's, if he's just, I don't know, kind of
14-page dossier on mummies.
Yeah, like if it's just Trump bullshit, if it's the same crap that we're seeing on Truth Social, like I'm not sure that we need to see that. So
what we've been told so far is that it was the opposition research files to J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio. And so if you're unfamiliar with that, it's just all the negative things,
all the dirt
that could come out about these two people. The reporting has been vague, but seemed to have suggested that this is all the publicly available information. It wasn't like we searched his credit report and found X, Y, or Z. But that is what we have been told through outlets reporting on the fact that they got a thing that they are not running.
And if that's the case, like I would hope that journalists at that many outlets, if there was something in there that was breaking new ground or something we had to know, I would hope that they would tell us. But I don't feel the need to actually see the emails myself, assuming that there's nothing all that important in them. But again, unless we see them, like we can't really judge that for ourselves. And in 2016, we had WikiLeaks. And WikiLeaks, the whole thing was like, see it for yourself. We're just going to give you what we got. We'll take out the stuff that matters for national security. But without WikiLeaks, we do kind of have to hope that the gatekeepers are.
Well, not necessarily.
Good job.
You could dump it on Pastebin. There's a bunch of repositories that you could throw it.
Plus, I mean, like the press is taken things that have been leaked before the Pentagon Papers. I mean, like you can have things that are not authorized by the entity that it's talking about, that if they are in the public interest, you're able to publish. So I don't think you have to have WikiLeaks for it. I am curious as to why they haven't. Is this an ethical constraint that's built into journalism? Because I'm frankly surprised that they've not released this information.
There was a lot of hand-wringing after 2016, specifically from the Hillary campaign, that you were doing Russia's bidding. That the press keeps talking about these leaked emails. They shouldn't have been leaked. They were hacked illegally. And so you are destabilizing the country by doing Russia's bidding, by reporting on them. What I found interesting from the perspective of a foreign government trying to destabilize our election is that I don't know what the state of WikiLeaks is currently, but it's not like there aren't other places that you can put all of this information.
Especially if you're Iran, like they could just put it on the internet.
Well, you put it on the internet, and then you tell the outlets, hey, here's where it is.
Yeah.
Iran has a WordPress site. They put up a PDF and then tweet about it.
Yeah. I mean, there's it.
Iran.blogspot.com.
Geocities.iran.com.
Iran so far away at geocities.com. It represented to me a very more sophisticated than I was expecting idea of how American news media works. That this person emailed Politico. Politico wrote about it the most thoroughly. That they emailed Politico and said, hey, here are J.D. Vance's and Marco Rubio's Oppo files. And the reporter emailed back and said, how'd you get these? And the reporter said, you should not ask me that because then it would affect your ability to publish it.
Good sign.
And so they didn't run it. I assume because it wasn't really anything that we haven't already known.
Or maybe they can't verify it as real. Because that's going to be important too. If you're going to release something like that, you better make sure it's legit.
The Trump campaign has confirmed they were hacked. It apparently went through Roger Stone's email.
That seems like
Roger
a good
Stone
target.
has not used his Trump email. And so they hacked that and then emailed somebody as Roger Stone saying, hey, I need access to X, Y, or Z. They gave him access to it. And so that's how they got it. Now, the other fascinating thing about it is since 2016, apparently just like the way that modern politics works is nobody does the chitter chatter on email anymore. All the chitter chatter happens on Signal. So all the like risotto recipes like Podesta had, all the Donna Brazil, hey, I can't tell you what the CNN debate questions are, but these sure seem like really good questions that you should prepare for. All that stuff that happened in email in 2016 now just doesn't. And so there was just less email stuff to get.
Well, and Trump himself, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't he notorious for never putting anything in writing? So if
he doesn't, I think all of his emails he has printed out in the morning and he reads, and then anything he wants to say, he says to his secretary that types it into an email. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's probably just a festival of dumb in there, and there's really not much. That's my guess, is that it's not being reported on.
Yeah, okay, so let's do like good faith argument, bad faith argument. Good faith argument, there are journalistic ethics and standards that legacy media is adhering to, and they are trying to actually implement the rules that they believe were violated in 2016, even when it potentially would aid their preferred outcome. This is a good world to live in. Bad faith argument would be they're nothing burgers and they can claim a card of ethical nobility if they don't do it and use it as their laurels. Or would that be the bad faith argument that it's basically just nothing? And
I don't think that it's like the only people that are pissed about this are like Hillary alums that are like, what the fuck? Like we got destroyed on this and you're not running it. Like this is supposed to just be like you flip over in the game of life. Like LOL, you got hacked. Move back 3 spaces. Move them back 3 spaces. Like we got moved back.
Yeah. Unfortunately for them, there's probably no evidence that the RNC was rigging their primary for Trump. So
I think if anything, the RNC evidence would go the other way.
Exactly.
It would turn out that they were all like, Jesus Christ, let DeSantis win. I hate this man.
Yeah, they're trying to claim it's like a similar situation, but it's like, it's probably not. Like the contents of the emails matter.
I feel like the Hillary camp should feel really, really good about having taken classified information and putting it on a private server explicitly to avoid any kind of public scrutiny in a way that would absolutely have put Trump in prison, and they got a pass on that. So just take the win, fellas.
Yeah. Perhaps the Hillary people should shut the fuck up.
Subnote. Did you guys see yesterday that the State Department said like, oh yeah, Hunter Biden lobbied Italy for Burisma?
No. Really?
What's different between now and the previous other times that Hunter Biden was under scrutiny for Burisma?
Wow. Do you know what was he lobbying Italy for?
For some plant, or some like natural gas deal.
Forgive me. What is the issue here?
That the president's son is acting as a foreign agent.
He was vice president. When Biden was vice president.
But we already knew he was doing it for Ukraine. This is just an additional one?
We knew that he was getting paid.
But we didn't know what he was being paid for. We assumed it was basically
that's right, because he was on the board of directors, and everybody was going, no, he's just really competent with international gas treaties. It has nothing to do with access. That was Ukraine, where he was on the board of directors.
And with the Burisma, like the theory kind of was that they just wanted a Biden on the board, so it was kind of like a no-show job. But now we're finding out that it was not a no-show job. He was acting was he a registered foreign agent? Nope.
Was he getting
this was brought to light after the statute of limitations had expired.
Oh,
really?
They're so hard to defend.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? I would really enjoy a sitcom of Anthony Weiner and Hunter Biden where they have to be roommates. Like, I think that would be so fun. Did you leave cigars on the table again?
You'd be a very Charlie Sheen in 2.5 Men-esque character.
Wait, okay. I want to make sure I understand this here. So the issue is Hunter Biden was working as a foreign agent, which is
to be fair. I read I skimmed the article. Yes, that would be the claim,
which is not illegal, but you do have to disclose.
You have to register as a foreign agent.
But I don't know if that would make him a foreign agent to work for a Ukrainian gas company, because it wasn't the Ukrainian government. So he's working for a gas company and lobbying Italy. I don't know what the details there would be.
I don't know the law on that either, whether a private actor abroad counts as a foreign agent of a government. I don't know.
If you're getting paid, if you're then taking that money into America, I would assume that's the...
I don't know how that works, because you could be a lobbyist for Toshiba or something. I don't know whether you have to.
Yeah, we'll revisit.
Either way, it changes the whole idea that he was just a Biden on the board in order to have a Biden on the board. This does change the context of what he was doing there quite a bit.
I guess the reason that I wasn't freaked out by that statement is I think like everybody else assumed he was getting paid for the name, but I didn't really blame Joe Biden for it, in so long as Joe Biden wasn't being affected, because I don't think you could. I'm not going to hold Joe Biden accountable for something his idiot kid is doing. So long as Joe was, if Joe did stuff that was bad, that's a different conversation. But if your kid
profit off it,
if he was profiting off it, that would be potentially illegal. But if his son was cashing in on the name, the dad doesn't have the ability to stop him from doing that. So I wouldn't think highly of Hunter on that one, but I would stop before going to Joe unless there's a smoking gun.
But this is why the investigations are important, and why it's important that they've been doing investigations into this. So to have this information come out now, this is big what if. I have absolutely no reason to think that this is real. But let's say that whatever Hunter Biden, let's say it was a plant in Italy that he wanted Italy to build. If then the State Department or the Vice President's office also lobbies Italy to like, hey, you should build a plant in this location, then that is a collusion, in which case, like, that would be bad news. So I think it's a hindering of the investigation.
So here's
concerns
the
me.
headline. Hunter Biden sought State Department help for Ukrainian company.
Okay, see, exactly. Like that's
Hunter Biden sought
precisely
assistance
what I'm
from
worried
the
about.
U.S. government for a potentially lucrative energy project in Italy while his father was vice president, according to newly released records and interviews. The records, which the Biden administration had withheld for years, indicate that Hunter Biden wrote at least one letter to the U.S. ambassador to Italy in 2016 seeking assistance for the Ukrainian gas company Burisma, where he was a board member. Embassy officials appeared to be uneasy with the request from the son of the sitting vice president on behalf of a foreign company.
Yeah.
I want to be careful about promising too much, wrote the Commerce Department official based in the U.S. Embassy in Rome. So that is the August 13th article from the New York Times.
And again, there has been an active investigation. Now, keeping in mind, I don't respect James Comer. I do think it's a witch hunt, but like there is an active investigation. So the fact that they've been withholding this information for years is a problem.
I mean, if it's a witch hunt, then that looks like a pointed hat.
Yeah, exactly. I'm getting Halloween vibes.
Anyway, all right. So the press, we don't want to crucify them for not running this. I'll actually take the other side of it. I would have run it.
Yeah, I think it would have,
or at least I would have.
I would love to know what the Trump. I think it's in the public interest for voters to know what Trump thought were the weak spots of J.D. Vance.
Yeah, Trump's campaign. But yeah, I mean, I think that I would have detailed more of exactly what was offered or what was given, because I do think that is interesting. I do like I along with the process story of, hi, we're Politico. Somebody named Robert started emailing us from an AOL address and offered us a bunch of stuff. We have not run it. I would have said, here's what we got. Here's what we believe news value wise. Everything is out in the public sphere already. And so to run this now would only be achieving the goals of a foreign network, which we believe this is from. And I think that's, you kind of have to dot your I's and cross your T's there. And
so if there's no information that would be valuable to the public, at that point you'd go, because there's no additional information that's useful to voters, it would only be furthering the interests of a foreign government.
Yes.
Okay.
But would it really be? Because if it's all public information anyway, like what is Iran actually getting from having those out in the public? I don't get
45 pages of Trump going, well, I like the Rust Belt bit, but kind of looks like a couch fucker.
Yeah.
What if people bring that up? What if they say he fucked a couch? Like, I don't know. It could happen.
It's a very nice couch.
Patreon.com/we're not wrong is where you need to go if you would like to support this show.
For now.
Don't, dude. Don't. Everybody should still go there.
Oh, no, for sure.
They should still pay us money there.
Yeah.
They're just not on our fucking Christmas card list right now. On this edition of our Patreon exclusive episode, we are going to be talking about how boneless chicken wings can now contain bones, according to an Ohio lawsuit. And there is a very excited Andrew Heaton to talk about.
I have never been more excited about a bonus episode. I woke up early to get into tort law. I am so excited about this topic. I think this is so fun.
Heaton is torting all over the place.
Yep.
And you're going to get his exclusive tort thoughts.
Like on this morning when I walked my dog, I just walked my dog with ChatGPT on and was like, well, what would the strict threshold be? Like just having like this robot give me information on tort law. I was so excited.
I love that you could take this story seriously.
It's such a great way to understand tort law, though.
Mm-hmm. Lot of meat on that bone. Patreon.com/we're not wrong. In all seriousness, thank you guys so much. Who knows whether or not we're going to make money on this Chicago show. The only reason why we go out and do these, because they are not gigantic money makers for us, is to meet you guys, the listeners of this show, and specifically the patrons.
And pizza.
You are the reason why it happens. Thank you. Patreon.com/we're not wrong. If you guys eat a Chicago deep dish pizza slice with your hands, I'm taking a picture.
Okay.
Because it's going to be a big, fat, messy load.
Mm-hmm. Mhm.
I will show you that.
I think we should just make a new rule that bearded men don't have to clean our beards till the end of the meal. Can we agree on that?
Ew.
Yep. Sorry.
Oh.
Fuck all of y'all. I think I have to get like 15 napkins. No. You know what? I'll tell you why. Because I'm an environmentalist and I love trees.
I think you're just a messy dude. You very, very kindly did not ask me to make you coffee today.
First time.
You are now taking.
Yeah, I'm taking self-ownership
You're
after
taking
a year and a
ownership,
half.
and so you just went over to my coffee machine. You started making it. You got about halfway through before I had to correct you,
Yeah.
but still, I appreciated the effort.
Mhm.
Part of it was you emptying the coffee grounds into my sink, and I don't know how it's possible, but it looked like the fucking Manson murders were in coffee grounds all over this sink.
It's a double-sized sink, and
It's a
no part of
farmhouse
it
sink.
didn't have.
I
coffee
tipped
grounds
over
in
the
it.
coffee thing, the sieve, and I poured water through it. I can't be held accountable for gravity. What did you want me to do? Take it into the bathroom, put it in the toilet? This is how sinks work.
No, but how'd you get it up on the sides all the way around? That's what was so impressive.
I guess because I put it directly under the faucet, maybe. Maybe if I put it like right above the... I've never thought about this before.
Oh, you don't say.
Yeah. Color us shocked.
Let's talk about betting. This election day, Missouri will vote on legalizing sports betting. Currently, 38 U.S. states, along with Washington, D.C., have legalized sports betting in some form, whether through retail or online sportsbook. The number has grown significantly since the Supreme Court's 2018 decision to overturn the federal ban on sports betting, including allowing individual states to legalize it if they chose. That 2018 case that led to the legalization was Murphy versus National Collegiate Athletic Association. The case centered around the constitutionality of the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act of 1992. This was a lawsuit that was brought by Chris Christie and then eventually Phil Murphy, which is why Murphy is on the lawsuit. So let me ask you this, Heaton. Should sports betting be legalized nationwide if we are now moving into the possible 40s of states out of our 50 that allow it?
Yes and hell yes. I'm very much in favor of this. I thought the aforementioned Supreme Court decision, I've not read the actual court case, but what I've read about it, I thought that was kind of a slam dunk. It hinged on the 10th Amendment and saying, look, the federal government is at liberty to write law on gambling if it wants to. What it can't do is co-opt state agencies to enforce federal law. That was the distinction in that case. The law that had been in effect, I think, was a grand example of cookie cutter laws in order to benefit some parties and hurt others. With the law that was overturned by that Supreme Court case, it wasn't a blanket law on sports betting or on betting in all cases across the union, because states that had previously allowed gambling prior to the passing of that law were omitted from it. That would be Nevada.
Yeah.
So basically the law went nobody but Nevada. I think 3 other states had technically been grandfathered in. So I think that was a good call in the Supreme Court's case. As you note, Justin, it opened the doors for there to be gambling legalized and sports betting across the countries in 38 states that are now doing it, probably more to follow. So I have 2 positions on this. The first one is ideological, and it's a values philosophical argument. I do not believe in the government as a nanny state. I don't want the government protecting you from yourself. I want the government protecting you from fraud, other people, pollution, things that are external. But in terms of you making your own decisions, I don't want the government being your dad. So there is a philosophical argument that I'm coming from here and an outcome that I want. But from a policy perspective, I don't think that any of the remedies that are being proposed would work. This is mostly online betting at this point. So if you want to have a state outlaw it, people can get around it through VPNs or apps. And I don't think that most of the arguments against gambling really logically are consistent with a lot of other things. So I've read a bunch of think pieces about how allowing sports betting really, really hurts people because there's gambling addicts that will get into trouble. They'll get into debt. There's evidence that states that have allowed for online gambling and sports betting have had a decline in their credit card rates and things like that. All of that logic, I think, applies to alcohol, which we keep legal for good reason. And I think that the remedies that we could have for a lot of these supposed problems that could be put in by the government would not be in banning it, but in trying to help people facilitate better decisions themselves. So that could be education, or it could be having laws put in place where you have the ability to opt out, and then a casino cannot serve you. Things like that. I'm fine with things like that, where consumers have more control over their own lives. But in terms of state governments just outlawing it, I think almost all of those arguments really just boil down to finances, where casinos go, hey, gambling, fine. Slots machines, fine. Horse gambling, fine. But other gambling that we can't get money for online, that's very dangerous. We can't have that. Again, gambling on our slot machines, totally fine. But on an app, ooh, that would course of perdition. I think it's all money. I think it's all nonsense. And it's just an attempt of regulatory capture on entrenched interests that are already making money that don't want competitors.
You know why we don't have sports gambling in Texas?
Oklahoma Indian casinos, you're welcome.
They are a very entrenched lobbying interest here in Austin. We might run into some of them at Fogo de Trao, right around the Capitol.
I'm gonna be,
yeah, but that's the reason, is that the right across the border of Oklahoma, there's a casino.
WinStar Casino.
The WinStar
It's
Casino.
fucking giant. It's
but-
huge.
But yeah, there's a
Does it have
movement
a good
afoot.
pool?
I don't know. Well, full disclosure, I don't think I'm one of the people that needs to worry about this. Like I have a lot of sympathy for addicts. And I think that is there's a difference between being an addict and being an idiot. And being an addict, that is a tough spot to be in, and gambling addiction is a real thing. But like for me, I've never gone to any of these places because I just look at the math and I'm like, well, unless I think this is a fun activity, I know I'm going to lose money. So why would I do it? It doesn't strike me as a fun activity, so I don't.
I mean,
It's
I go
really
to Vegas
fun.
for like the hotel and the pools.
Yeah,
and
for the entertainment
restaurants and-
value.
But you make bets. I've made bets with you.
Yeah, I like to bet on stupid shit. Hence
Yeah.
why I have to take you guys
Yeah.
to Fogo de Chao today.
I would.
Oh no! But sports betting, like
Yeah, I like to bet on sports, but like you're not going to find me spending a ton of time at slots or
Right.
playing poker. I had a Pai Gow phase, but that was mainly for the free drinks because like you can play for 6 hours
yeah,
and not
you
lose
can
any
hold-
money.
You can hold money. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like give me a shot and a beer 7 times, and I've just made a lot of money. So, and why I don't drink anymore too.
Yeah. But and that's how, I mean, like, I don't have a problem with gambling.
Right.
And I like going to
I love slots.
horse tracks every like
Slots are so
3 or
fun.
4 years.
How
but
old are you?
It's like an adult iPad. Like it's like an adult iPad.
It is like
game.
Candy Crush.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I
it's
just-
not satisfying
do-
anymore because like you don't get all the coins and
Fuck
you don't have to
that.
collect them in a bucket. That was
No,
so
they
fun.
make noises, and then it's
You
like
get some
the
unsatisfying
tiger,
ticket.
the tiger bonus, and it goes like "Rawr," and the tigers are going all crazy and everything, and then next thing you know, you make $500 like I did in Vegas over the weekend.
Nice.
On a slot machine? You go, Grandpa.
I've made $1,500. That was my biggest payday on the slot machine.
Wow. Yeah.
And I would look at that as
do
an
that.
unanticipated windfall.
Oh yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
I rarely gamble. I do go to horse tracks every once in a while, and I enjoy them because you're allowed to yell. You're not usually allowed to yell in poker, but you can yell at the horses, which
Yeah.
is fun. And also, I have a whole strategy in place based
give
on.
me your best. Go!
God damn it, you fucking glue stick! Run! Run, you glue stick! You're gonna be no, run faster! Fuck! And then I'll bring a hat that I can throw down, and it's all for the entertainment value. I
Yeah.
enjoy losing. It's
Yeah.
like it's just
Yeah.
the doing that bit, but no one can get mad at you for it. And my strategy on horse gambling is I find somebody who really looks like they know what they're doing, and I go up to them and go, "Hey, can I see your program for a second?" And they go, "Yeah." And then I look and go, "Oh, Bertrand, that's a funny name for a horse. I'm going to bet on that." And then the guy will laugh at me because I don't know what I'm doing, and the universe will punish him by making me win. That's my whole strategy, is that there might be irony in the universe.
You know what might be fun? Knowing
What?
how much he likes to yell at horses. As if for your birthday
Again,
this year.
another reason why you'd be great at dressage.
For your birthday this year in January, what if like wild card weekend for the NFL, we go to Vegas and we bet on every single playoff game? Because you have 2 people who are going to know enough about the games.
Well, he
And then
also
you'll
bet
give
on
a
horses.
shit. We can bet on everything.
Vegas, I haven't been to Vegas in years. It'd be fun to go. And
Wouldn't that be
I
fun?
think
And then
Vegas
you
is
can see
actually-
why we like football.
really impressive as a city. I'm
Yeah.
pro Vegas.
And the games are a lot more fun when you have money on the line.
Brian Brushwood, our friend who's been on the show before, discovered the fun of betting on random games because we were there. I forget why, but it was during March Madness, college basketball. And so he
Oh.
just bet college basketball. And I think he wound up betting on UT, which he did go to UT, but he doesn't give a shit about sports. And he just realized like, oh, it's just a random number generator that I have investment in.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Maybe, I mean, we've been talking about this a while. This might be the way to get me to like sports. Because
Exactly.
like right now, there's some weird neural deficit, possibly autism, I don't know, that precludes me from being able to enjoy sports euphoria like normal people.
Oh,
I would love to be able to get that human emotion that other folks
But
have.
it
is a
sounds like you
wing-
had it with the horses.
No, that's the entertainment value of the spectacle. It's
But
not
that's
really.
what sports is.
No.
Sports is a fucking spectacle.
No, it is. No, but he wants to, he
I want to
wants,
actually care whether the team wins.
he
or
wants,
not.
he wants the immersive theater element. Now, that being said, there is a similar vibe to a Vegas sports book as a track. You have a lot of the same characters that are very expressive, and if you actually give a shit about sports, a sports book is one of the worst places to watch it. One time I watched the Steelers playoff game there, and it was hell because everyone is screaming, especially for playoff football, where it's the only thing on. It's on all the televisions, and everybody has action on everything.
Yeah.
So if somebody next to you has bet on under 25 rush attempts by the Steelers, every time they run the ball, they're like, what the fuck? What the fuck? Throw the ball! Throw the ball! It doesn't matter. Like, they don't really have an investment in who's going to win. And so it's just like your adrenaline is spiking constantly. So
It's
yeah,
so entertaining.
you could do it. It would be a different character if you wanted to lace up the boots and pretend to be a weird sports
hold
betting
on.
guy.
I have an idea. Maybe I'm going about this the wrong way. The way we've talked about this, which makes sense, is Heaton, maybe we can get you to like sports by having a financial investment in it. Maybe we should go the other way. Maybe I should like find a team with players I truly hate as individuals, where I'm just rooting for them to lose. So like you should keep track.
Oh, just haters.
Welcome to fantasy football.
Right. Like Heaton, did you know that this guy in the Steelers is like super in favor of stadium subsidies? And this other guy wrote a letter to his HOA about how they shouldn't put in a homeless shelter, like that kind of thing. Maybe I'm like, fuck the Steelers.
There was a movement this year because the Oakland A's, who have by far the worst ownership in the history of professional sports, they are fucking up the Vegas thing. They don't have enough money to actually build their part of the stadium in Vegas. So they're going to wind up moving from Oakland to Sacramento. So you're going to downgrade your...
Wait, they were going to go to Vegas?
They are still technically
Technically.
going to go to Vegas.
Uh-huh.
And they got public money. The problem is that you don't build an entire stadium on public money. Public subsidizes the stadium building, but
Because there's
still,
no way the private sector could ever. You know what? I'm gonna hold back. Please continue,
regardless,
Justin.
regardless of whether or not you think that should ever happen, you still need money, right? You need private money.
money.
You need capital.
You need private money,
And
they
everyone
don't-
hates the A's.
They don't have it. The city doesn't really want them, and so they are trying to raise the money by selling minority parts of the team. That's not odd, but they are trying to do it.
Selling
at a
minority. You mean like stock?
minority ownership in the team.
Okay, I just wanted to be very clear that like this was not some weird ethnic thing.
It's
Here.
not a slave trade.
Okay,
No.
No.
just wanted to make sure.
No,
That's
no,
why I
no,
don't know
no,
about
no.
sports.
I'll save that joke. So they're trying to sell it at an inflated valuation because they're like, well, this is what the team is going to be worth when we are in Vegas. And so far, people are like, no, we don't even think you're going to be in Vegas. And so we're not going to buy in this inflated thing, and then everything's going to fall apart anyway. So they're long way to say you would have the ability to find them so morally reprehensible that this is something that happened over the last season. There were just people that would just bet against the A's every day because not only are they poorly run, they suck.
Mm-hmm.
So if you bet against them every day, you are probably going to make money and you're going to feel good fading a team that legitimately sucks and has burnt the last goodwill of Oakland as a professional sports city. They love that team so much because it was the only one that stayed around, and it's the only one that plays their games in the Oakland summer, which is immaculate. Like the best experience you could possibly have. And now they're going to play in Sacramento where it's hot
Oh my God,
as
it's so
fucking balls. It's going to be miserable.
Yeah. Stupid A's. Should I answer the
Yes,
question?
please do.
Yeah. So the question was, if
Should
be,
sports betting be legalized nationwide?
Yeah. And I actually have a different take than Andrew. Well, first of all, don't give a shit. But because like there's plenty of places. But when I look at like what should be what should be legislated on a federal level and what's on a state level, there's certain things at a federal level that make sense to me. So it's like the voting rules on national office, like Congress, president. I have no problem with that being legislated on a national level. I don't understand why we would allow one state to, pick a representative based on racing 2 chickens across the road. So it's like,
hey, Oklahoma has its reasons. You shut up.
Yeah.
Fred Lucas is a great representative. Go Woods County.
Yeah. So certain things make sense to me. But when it comes to legalized gambling, I'm perfectly fine with letting the states choose on this one. Like, as we said, we are one of the, Texas, this place that's all about freedom. Like, fuck off. Like, we can't bet here. We can't legally smoke weed here. There's a lot of things we can't do here in the land of the
choice
free.
voting on a municipal level. That's been outlawed by the state government because it doesn't believe in local control in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, you can't snuff out a zygote. Like, there's so many things that you just can't do in Texas.
Throw out real quick. For Texan voters, I wouldn't refer to that as snuffing out a zygote if you want it to be legal.
Leave it go. Leave it go.
Different wordage if you want to make that.
Let her cook.
Yeah, but this land of the free, we're not allowed to bet. And you know what? If I don't like it, I can go. Like the abortion thing, I feel like that is a matter of health. It can be a matter of life and death. So that's where I would like to see a national law. But there's no matter. There's no matter of life and death in sports betting. And there's no if we were to allow, like I said, one state picks their representatives by racing chickens, but that affects the whole country because we have 435 people in the House. And I think that they should be elected on some kind of similar manner so that you have at least a bottom of seriousness in how these people end up in those offices. But when it comes to legalizing betting, I don't think anyone's particularly helped or hurt. And if you think it is damaging, because as you aptly brought up, there are people that are addicted to this. I enjoy doing it, but I'm in no way addicted to it. If the voters of that state see that their state has a problem with this and they want to outlaw it, I really don't have an issue with that because I can always pop on a plane and go to Vegas like I always have. So I'm a no on whether or not this should be legalized nationwide. That said, if it is, do I care? No, it's fine. But I don't think this is something I'm going to be writing my congressman about.
So my stepfather is a gambling addict, I guess, because I don't think you stop. That's part of the rules. Went to GA. Guess what? Never stopped gambling. Still gambles.
What is GA?
Gamblers Anonymous.
Oh, okay.
And making it illegal didn't stop him. He just had a bookie and did it that way. This is about people being able to do it legally, do it recreationally. I'm fine with you, Jen, with your perspective. If people want to do it, I think what's happening now with both gambling and weed, the two biggest vices that America had national prohibition against that are now falling piece by piece, is that what you're seeing is that gigantic states like Texas and California are dragging their feet on it, mostly because they want to figure out the most advantageous way that they can make the most money on it, or at least the entrenched lobbying interests want to make the most money on it. In California, it's the Indian casinos that are stopping it. In Texas, it's an Indian casino that isn't even in Texas that's stopping it. That being said, I would be very much for, I don't know if I'd be a single issue presidential voter, but I might be close, for somebody to set up one national hotline for gambling help. So on sports podcasts that are predominantly advertised on by DraftKings and the other one, that they cannot read off 50 different statewide betting crisis lines, because that's what happens on all of them, is that at the end, it's just 1-888
like a 911 equivalent.
Yeah.
And then just when you're on the line, enter in your zip code. Boom. It'll get you to the one that you're supposed to go to that is a state agency. For the love of
helpful.
God.
Yeah, that
for the
sounds
love
good.
of God.
Because if you're in the moment, you need to kind of remember something like that. Because you're about to bet and it's just okay, I need to call someone. And if you have a list of 75 numbers and you don't know which one to call,
because now it's like,
it.
bet help in Indiana, 555. Oh, my money in New York. Hey, I'm gambling here. Whatever.
It's a really good suggestion.
Look at that. I'm a good suggester. We're not wrong pod at gmail.com. Ray gun was robbed. We're not wrong pod at Gmail. Chicago.com. Where do people buy tickets for the Chicago show? Asks, where do people buy tickets for the live show in Chicago? Go to my Twitter, x.com/Justin R. Young, and it is in the pinned tweet. I don't know how many tickets we sold because it's the venue that is doing it, but looks like we're going to have a good crowd.
Yeah, we had a great crowd in Milwaukee.
Great
Yeah.
crowd.
Super fun.
I'm hoping to see some of those people again. That would be fun.
I think our entire Milwaukee crowd's going to come.
I would love that.
A fair timeline says, Justin, I don't know why I get called the bad guy. Also, Justin calls Jed a mouthy broad.
I don't remember you saying that.
Well, it'll be the first time you shut up. How brave are you, writes. Jen says that she wanted to move to a more privacy-focused web browser, so she uses Brave. Does she know that that is still based on Google's Chromium?
Oh.
Google's dominance of the web browser market is actually a potential monopoly case that I'm surprised hasn't been brought up yet. Chrome by itself is by far the most popular browser, but if you use Edge, Brave, Opera, or pretty much anything that isn't Firefox or a derivative, you're using Chrome just with a different skin. It gives Google a lot of power over how people access the web. See the Manifest v3 rollout. I imagine Justin could either get into or it will break the vast majority of ad blockers because we can't be reducing Google's grip on the ad market either.
You know what's interesting about that? I have no reason to doubt this because I don't know anything. But when I do searches on Brave and then I switch over to Chrome, the results are different. So if it's powered by the same thing, why am I getting different
It's not
results?
keeping track of your searches.
Yeah, it is the framework of the app itself is the same thing. Essentially, Chromium just solves a lot of engineering hurdles that nobody wants to resolve. And Chromium is essentially free to build something new out of. Same thing with WebKit for Safari. You can build stuff on top of that. In fact, I think Chrome's iOS browser is WebKit. It just is skinned as Chrome. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff that is there. But Heaton's right. Brave is not tracking you in the same way that Chrome tracks you because Chrome is fully integrated as a ad selling tool.
It's like if you go on Google and you use incognito mode, you'll probably get very similar results because it's not keeping track of your things.
I have another dumb question.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between Google Chromium and Chrome? Because I've never heard of this Chromium.
Chromium is the base technology that Chrome is built on.
Okay, so Chrome is the browser.
Chrome is
That's
the
not
product.
just like a cute little nickname.
No.
Okay.
Chrome is the product. If you want to know what, you can just Google which browsers are based on Chromium and it'll give you a list of all the ones that are based on that.
Well, thank you for the info. I clearly didn't know any of that.
Can political speech be fact checked? What do you guys think of jury's old saying, #hellportal, #portal to hell when they first started checking political speech on Facebook? For those of you who did not listen to Daily Tech News Show, this has been a long time hobby horse of mine that fact checking actual facts are hard. Fact checking political facts are nearly impossible on the scale that Facebook has to do it. And so the more you try to do it, the more you say, oh, well, this thing is not true. We are rating it by Facebook's authority untrue, and therefore we're restricting it, just leads to more reprisals of, well, yeah, but you didn't restrict this half-truth that is told in politics because all of politics is half-truths.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be curious to see the application of it. I do find it to be, I find those kind of fact-checking processes to be useful but suspect pretty much every time. So like the Washington Post does Pinocchio stars on statements, right? Where it'll, or like how many, this has 5 Pinocchios, this has 3 Pinocchios. And I do think that's useful, but I also suspect that the Washington Post probably goes a little harder on Republican statements than Democratic statements. So
calm down, Rush Limbaugh.
It's useful for me to go, oh, okay, they gave 3 out of 5, and like, no, I've got information out of it. But is there a capacity to kind of weaponize it through omission? Yeah, that's the thing I'm more worried about.
I appreciate the posts that give more context. Like I saw, and I'm not going to say her name because who cares, but like there was a girl who had said some stuff that was just, I knew it was bullshit. And not long after she got a, this is bullshit on the Facebook post. And I actually think that when it's so clearly not true that you can say that this is false, I think there is a lot of value in that. And I like that Twitter, the X, whatever. One of the
Community
changes,
notes.
I really like community notes because it just gives you some more information. It doesn't actually say true or false. It's just like, this is what the community, and like the community can give more feedback on it. So it gets better over time. It's kind of like Wikipedia in that regard. So I think they're doing the best they can. I don't think it's a porter to hell to try. I think it's worth the effort to at least call out the straight bullshit as bullshit.
I agree to add information.
Yeah.
Adding information is what it is. You get into a trickier situation when you're like restricting monetization on stuff. But
yeah, I don't believe in restricting anything. Even if it's a lie,
Yeah.
I think that lie should fly everywhere, but have the thing in the bottom saying there's a lot of reasons to think this
counter
isn't
bad
true.
information with good information.
Instead
I
of
agree.
hiding it. I don't think that helps anything.
I'll add, I don't like it when fact checkers fact check subjective things.
And yeah.
So for example, I don't know why this one stands out to me. This is now dated, but like 5 years ago, Kellyanne Conway said Antifa is un-American, and whatever fact checker went, false. Antifa means anti-fascist. There's nothing more American than opposing fascists. And I'm like, okay, I think she's probably referring to the black bloc and dressing up like a ninja and breaking went like, it was like, okay, now this is just agitprop on behalf of the
and
other side.
that's my problem with political speech is that 90% of it is that, you know, this is a persuasion game. And so you don't have to be fair. Pepsi doesn't have to be fair to Coke. Pepsi can make an ad where somebody takes a sip of Coke and goes, this is disgusting. Oh my God, this is so gross. Does that mean Coke is really gross and people are going to spit it out? Maybe somebody will, but that's not generally what happens. That's the same thing in politics.
But if Pepsi was putting out an ad saying that Coca-Cola is literal poison, I would want someone to be like, no, that's false. So that's, I think it's needed when the facts are wrong. And a lot of times in political speech, the facts are wrong.
An opinion that,
I don't know,
it's
sometimes
literal
there's just
poison. You have a shorter lifespan if you drink 2 cans of Coke every day. Is that not the definition of poison? More after the break on Hardball. Have a good time in Chicago, writes. Wish I could be there to riot like it's 1968. Hope you have a great time.
I will push over a trash can for you.
I don't want any riots. If anything, it's just so counterproductive because instead of focusing on the fact that people are still being slaughtered and starved and tortured in Gaza, you'll be focused on these people just burned down a bank and how bad are these rioters? And like, it's just so counterproductive to break property. Like show up in large numbers, like make that the story.
You know what? I would have 100% agreed with you a year ago when I wasn't going to physically be there. Now that I'm going to physically be there, kind of want light rioting.
No,
This is the bad part of me.
Well,
the bad part of me
now
wants
you
light
know
rioting.
you're inside the perimeter.
Yeah, now you know you have security clearance.
You're gonna be up in the C-SPAN skybox
no.
saying like watching it on TV going fucked up as you put like the prosciutto roll after prosciutto roll in your mouth.
I still want light rioting even in that context. If I wasn't getting past the perimeter, I would want heavy rioting. As it is, I want light rioting.
So you want in the middle? You wanted to be in the middle of a riot?
If I couldn't get in, yeah.
Have you been in a riot before? They're not pleasant.
Let's say I do a little recreational rioting, for cardio.
This is the one out of the three of us who never lived in Oakland.
Hello,
you
friends.
have no idea what it's
let's break this window with the shoe emporium. Take that, capitalism.
You would get bonked to that as a narc immediately.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. Yeah.
I think we should break the window.
Yeah, like if
get
you just
the narc.
Kids in ninja costumes go, I don't know who that guy is, but I'm pretty sure he's the embodiment of whatever we hate.
know.
Let's kill him.
As soon as you open your mouth, you have 4 non-binaries taking you down.
I got in a screaming fight outside of the Tribune building in Oakland with a bunch of people that were getting ready to break the Tribune's windows. And it was like during like the Black Lives Matter protests. And they were about to break the windows. And I was just like, hold on. Isn't the whole point of this to get the media on your side? Because do you really think breaking their fucking windows is going to do it? And oh my God, did they start screaming at me?
Oh, yeah.
I was like, this just is counterproductive. And Joe's like, we need to go home. They're going to kill you.
The Tribune hasn't operated out of there for decades.
Well, still, symbolically.
There's a great restaurant.
Don't break their fucking windows.
Would, of course, not stand up to any kind of constitutional scrutiny. But there's a part of me that goes, hey, great. How about from now on, whenever we have riots and we have the black bloc breaking windows and shit, we give people sentences based on privilege. How about that? So like if you're one of these people that's trodden upon, that's a minority, you're going to get a lighter sentence. If you're a barista that's a junior in college, you get a really long. I think that it would change the dynamics really quick. Most of the data that I saw during like George Floyd was that it was like white people from out of town going in to break shit recreationally because it's fun to break shit, and like not a fan.
Shitheads from Berkeley.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we knew who these people were, but I didn't see a lot of black people breaking stuff, honestly.
No, not surprised by that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also have zero sympathy for temper tantrums.
Yeah.
Like I read all these fucking think pieces back then about like, well, like breaking unrelated property that has nothing to do with the problem at hand. That's the last resort of the truly oppressed. And I'm like, that's fucking temper tantrum bullshit. Lock them up.
Yeah. I'm fine with closing down streets by like sit-ins and stuff
So I guess what I want is I want light rioting for entertainment value, and then a massive crackdown on the rioters for maintaining order.
Since when are you such a chaos agent?
When I'm going to be at the event reporting on it.
So you just want a good story. You don't actually give a fuck about.
Yes, to be very clear on this is absolutely my inner Justin enjoying the dumpster fire.
Okay, because I would like the war in Gaza to stop. So I want this to be effective.
I also don't like war.
We had a bunch of people send us the same YouTube video. So I'm just going to assume that we have a crossover audience with The Angry Cop, who did a video about Tim Walz. Just felt that it was of note.
What was the video about?
It was critical of Tim Walz and his military service, as we will get into in these emails. Tim Walz's service record writes, it's going to hurt him with military/ex-military contingent. Having signed a contract in 2007, getting out before serving even 4 years of it, it's a bit shady. Walz is a sassy bitch, writes, I admire Heaton's inclination to assume that people are generally nice, but having spent my entire life in northern Minnesota, I have to say that Walz is a mean girl. The weird and couch fucker comments are typical of his tendency to dismiss anyone who disagrees with him by mocking and bullying. For extra credit and a giggle at childish politics, look up his rocks and cows quote and the resulting billboards. This was during a run of his. He said that and the only thing that was in rural Minnesota was rocks and cows. And so the local Republicans put up billboards.
But you know what? In this election, they're running against the meanest girl on the planet. Donald Trump is such an asshole. And so I do think that it's important for the Democrats to have people that can snap back at him. Like Biden wasn't doing it. Like you can't always take the high road when you're dealing with someone who's as verbally toxic as Donald Trump. So I can't get all that mad at it. Plus, he's funny.
You know what I think you can take the high road. One of the things that I genuinely respect about Bernie Sanders is I think he's a high road campaigner. Bernie Sanders fired people in his campaign in 2020 when they made character attacks during the primaries. I respect the shit out of that. I think Bernie Sanders made a serious dent and probably more than anyone in the country rehabilitated the word socialist. And I don't say that as a fan of that phenomenon, but he's, I think, been a high road campaigner. And I don't think you have to do that. What I've seen of Tim Walz, as we talked about on the program, I personally like him. I think my inner Midwesterner who grew up listening to Garrison Keillor relates to him a lot more than to some of the other people in it. My concerns are not temperamental. I like when I look at his record as an executive, there's a lot of throwing money at stuff that just doesn't end up materializing, or like using federal grants for money at the state level that weren't allocated by the federal government for that purpose. That's the kind of thing that bothers me about him, is like the efficacy of him as an executive. But the temperamental stuff, I don't know. I kind of find it refreshing having a folksy Midwesterner on the ticket.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're right. I don't love the meanness in politics, but also when I look at Bernie as someone who really would have loved to have seen him be president, the way he just rolled over Hillary and just all like, it was so disheartening the way he didn't fight back against all of the unfairness. Like he just kind of took it and went back to the Senate and just quietly accepted, his chairmanship of the budget committee. Like, okay, but he was wronged, and the people that worked for him were wronged. And his politeness, I actually think in a lot of ways did some damage. He refused to run as an independent because he wanted to be a team player. Just like at a certain point when you're up against people who are ruthless, there's a level of politeness that it becomes weakness.
Sure. I would say him not running as an independent is a tactical thing rather than a temperamental thing. Like it gets into the whole concept of spoilers and stuff like that. But I don't know. I think Bernie Sanders is plenty capable of being able to argue and stand his own rhetorically without going below the belt. Like, I don't think that's ever been a
He
deficit
didn't take
for
the
him.
bait when Elizabeth Warren tried to entrap him on television during the 2020 debates.
I know. I mean, he's a great person, and this is why I wanted him to be president. Like, he was probably too good for this game. But at this
It's also
point,
hard to win the Democratic nomination when you're an independent. Like, that was an uphill climb to begin
which is why
with.
he should have ran as a fucking independent. You've always been independent, run independent, burn these two parties down.
See, this for me is a great example of why we should have ranked choice voting, because I would not have wanted Bernie Sanders to be president.
Waltz gun rights. Personally, I'm a Democrat and a 2A supporter. If you care about owning an AR or an AK, neither Kamala or Walz support your right to do so. Pretty fair to say that most Democrats are in that camp as well. Some persuadable voters, however, are not. And this pick does Harris no favors. Points to Heaton for recognizing the difference between a gun owner and a 2A voter. Surely he's received multiple emails to that effect. Walz owning guns is like Biden owning guns. It means nothing about their opinions on them. What I find more fun is Jen's knee-jerk reaction saying that Walz's position is common sense. I find some of his stances objectionable and unreasoned. What any of his positions won't do is reduce actual gun violence. Heaton did an episode, Gun Violence by the Numbers, that is pertinent. Most gun crime is gang violence in the inner city with illegally possessed handguns. Pass all the laws you want. Criminals are going to be criminals.
The most bullshit of talking points that like, oh, criminals are just going to do what they want. Well, why don't we just let everyone have predator drones then? Like, no, you don't have to allow everyone to have that much firepower. And so you've just exposed yourself as one of the people who isn't a Democrat. And so Kamala and Waltz don't have to cater to you. As you even say, pretty fair. Oh, he is a Democrat. Well, yeah. Most Democrats are not in your camp of wanting to own an AR or AK because they need to murder 15 people in under a minute. Like, you're just not the right constituency. So I don't know. I just don't respect this at all.
I don't think he said he wanted to own an AR or an AK. He was saying that if somebody wants to own an AR or an AK, they're not going to vote for Kamala or Walz.
They're not going to be voting Democrat to begin with. Like,
yes, that's his point.
Well, that was my whole point. So what's my knee-jerk reaction?
Your knee-jerk reaction was that Walz's position is common sense.
It is. Sorry, that's not knee-jerk. That's an opinion. And it's also, I read his policies and they're all common sense. So
to you
and to like most of America, these things are well polled. Like having background checks and not allowing wife abusers to have guns, these are all well polled. So
we do have background checks.
No, we don't. You can go to a gun show and just buy a fucking gun without a background check. I'm
just going to forward all the emails. I'm just going to forward all the emails to Jen. Please.
I don't know. I'm just so sick of Americans being murdered because we allow this shit.
I agree.
So
there are background checks and at gun shows.
Some gun sales have background checks. Some do not. Because we don't have a national law that requires every single change of position to be background checked. We don't require tracking of those guns so that you have the personal responsibility of knowing who fires your gun at what other human being. We have plenty of common sense things where it's like, okay, you want to own your fucking AK-47, you're responsible for who dies with it. Like, we don't have those laws. And I consider them common sense. You want to talk about personal responsibility and training and all that shit? Put the laws where your so-called principles are. But just allowing any old asshole to get these things, like you 2A supporters, fuck off with that. Like, having protection for your family does not mean having the ability to slaughter dozens of people.
I think that's where we get into a straw man argument.
I think a lot of the laws that are proposed for that kind of thing, I would be fine with. I just wouldn't find them to be effective. So as I understand it, I'm not an expert on this, anybody who's a registered firearm dealer has to do a background check in the United States, including at gun shows. What you don't have to do is private individual transactions.
Yeah.
And so I would be fine with having a law that says you have to do a private individual background check where you go to the police office, but the enforcement mechanism is not going to be there. So like, I'm okay with it. But like for people that live in Alva, Oklahoma, where my family is, that have known each other a very long time, that like I'm a hunter and I'm going to sell a 22, like I'm just going to sell it to Bert. I know Bert, we're exchanging cash. I don't really care. So like you can pass it. I'm just saying, I don't know how a lot of the things that I see, like particularly with Bloomberg's group, Everytown USA, I read the things and I'm like, I think I'm fine with most of them. I just don't think they would do much.
I still think that they're pretty common sense. If anything, they're too weak. Like if anything, we are still going to have problems for the very reasons that you talked about. The fact that we allow any civilians to have these weapons of war That is the problem. And until we're willing to actually have that discussion and ban some of this shit like we had in the 1990s when our gun deaths were way lower, we're going to keep having these problems. Like you say, like, oh, most of the violence is possess handguns. Well, most of the mass slaughtering is happening with these AR type of weapons. Like even the Trump assassination, the Vegas guy that was able to kill dozens of people from the Mandalay Bay window, like they are using a specific kind of weapon. So it's like, we can do something about that other than just being like, well, criminals get a criminal. It's ridiculous.
I'm open to suggestions on laws to curb gun violence. This is something that I'm not an ideologue on. I'm trying to be practical on it. But statistically speaking, mass murders with shootings, mass shootings are defined as 5 or more deaths in the United States under federal law with the various informational groups that get it. And the majority of them are done by handguns. So like he is correct in saying that the majority of mass shootings are handguns, not AK-47s.
Not the really big mass shootings.
Not the
like
ones
Pulse
that are
Nightclub,
covered.
Las Vegas.
The
like,
ones that are covered.
The ones
that get media coverage.
Sure, the ones that get media
if you're
coverage.
trying to kill
you could
your
say
wife, that's usually going to be a handgun. But that's where you run into the issue that like, oh, wife beaters in lots of states are allowed to have handguns.
The thing that drives up the numbers when you cite the assault weapons ban and the difference in gang violence or the difference in mass shooting numbers between then and now, the big uptick is gang violence that is done with handguns.
Okay. Well, then let's trace every single one of those handguns. And if it's your handgun that's found to be used because you illegally sold it to someone, you also go to jail because you didn't keep track of your weapon of war. Like there are ways that we can punish everyone involved. And so there is a whole black market of gun dealing that happens in the blue states because you get them in the red states and then you sell them in the blue states. Everyone should be held accountable. Whoever that gun gets traced back to the store, that person should be in trouble because you fucking sold it. So it's like, there's ways that we can deal with this. But it's not let everyone have whatever gun they want. And that is what a lot of these 2A voters are pushing for. And I just don't respect it.
Send your emails. Send your emails.
Fuck your emails. I'm not reading them. Send them to Justin.
No, they're going to send them to me. I'm forwarding them to you.
Well, don't.
I will. And you can't stop me.
You don't think that
you can't stop me.
You don't think I've had these conversations with these people? Please.
I know, but look, I'm the one who always says that the 2A voters are like fucking Beetlejuice. Like you say them and they start shaking out. Same thing with the veterans. Like we got a shit ton of veterans because we mentioned the veteran shit. Like those are two audiences that like Swifties fucking email immediately when the issue is brought up.
The people that love guns
and they always say
crazy.
The same fucking thing. The 2A people say the same fucking thing, which is, please let me list all the laws that I comply with, and passing another law is not going to do anything. Where I do think that there is common ground, and I've had conversations with 2A people, like hardcore 2A people, is that you can have a good conversation if you are understanding from their perspective of the laws that they have to comply with, and those that they find reasonable and those that they find not reasonable. Because the conversations that I've had with them is that it's not that they are against making progress on this issue and stemming the tide. What they don't want is another generation of laws that they are going to have to jump through hoops on, that will be forgotten the next time there's a shooting. And then we just pass another rash of laws that they have to apply, that they have to comply with, that nobody else is going to give a shit about, because nobody gives a fuck about 2A voters except for those for whom they are politically represented for. And that creates legal liability for them if they don't jump through the hoops correctly.
You want a weapon of war? I'm not going to cry because you have to do too much paperwork. Boo-hoo.
Okay. Boo-hoo is the
I'm serious.
answer.
Like, I'm just so sick of these people that want guns. Like, there's people dying. Like, oh, well, I'm a good guy. Everyone thinks they're the fucking good guy. I'm sure the guy who wanted to kill Trump thought he was doing something good. Everyone who does this stuff thinks they are the good guy. So you can't go by, well, I'm a good guy and I do the proper paperwork. It's like, well, the same rules are applying to these fucking bad guys that are killing all the people with these weapons of war. Like, yes, you're going to have to do some paperwork if you want these things
they're illegally
in a society.
Using the weapons.
Or they are legally using the weapons, and that's what scares me too. There's been plenty of mass shootings where people that, I used my daddy's gun, or I bought the gun because I didn't have a criminal record before. And so I went to Walmart and I bought the gun, and then I went and killed the people that I wanted to kill. So it's like the ability to buy these weapons of war is the problem. And everything else we do is just window dressing on that. Like, we are just pretending that the problem isn't the fact that we make it so easy to buy weapons of war in this country. No other country does this, and no other country has the level of gun deaths that we have. So, I mean, the results are just obvious. You allow a lot of people to have guns, a lot of people will die via bullets. It's that simple.
Send your emails. An Olympic sex statistics brings us home on a lighter note. They distributed 300,000 condoms to this year's Olympic Village. Considering there are about 10,000 athletes competing at the 2024 Olympics, that works out to about 30 condoms per athlete, which is wild already. However, also consider that this is the first time that the male-female split has been basically 50-50, which means that every athlete that has the physical need to use one actually has about 60 condoms allocated to them. Given the Olympics are about 18 days long, that means that every male athlete needs to use 3 to 4 condoms per day to use their condom quota, which means that they would have to bump uglies with another athlete roughly every 4.8 hours, accounting for 8 hours of rest and recovery. Now, according to Google, the average calories burned per minute while schnooping is about 4.2. And according to the Journal of Sexual Medicine, the average session is somewhere between 3 and 13 minutes long. Given what we're talking about, literally the greatest athletes on the planet, let's just assume that the top of the range is 13 minutes. So 13 times 4.2 equals 54.6 calories per boinking, which means that given the previously mentioned 3 to 4 actions per day, the Olympians are spending somewhere between 163.8 to 218.4 calories per day just on fucking, which would be somewhere between 2,948.4 and 3,931.2 calories burned over the entire event. You're welcome.
If you're going to send emails, make them like this every time. This is the best email of all time.
I'm going to have to fuck a lot to get rid of those deep dish pizzas in Chicago coming up. I'm going to really have to do some carbo loading.
We're Not Wrong is a production of Dog and Pony Show Audio. Our editor is Will Saddleberg. On PX3 this week, we have Kamala Mentum Explained with Washington Monthly's Bill Scher, who called for Biden to drop out and Kamala to be the nominee before it happened. And if you want a sense of what's happening on the global war scale, specifically with Ukraine charging into Russia and taking territory in Russia, the first time since World War II that an invading army has taken territory within Russia, and what is happening between Iran and Israel, Ryan Macbeth is on the show on Friday. Jen.
So the next congressional dish is not out yet, but I want to tell you about it now because we always forget to do this on the live shows. I am doing an episode in which there was a report that was written for Congress to help them see like our global picture in war. And the people involved in writing that report, I was very disturbed to see them on the witness list and like knowing who they were. And so I watched the hearing. It's dark, but the information they're giving Congress is dark. And I think it's really important to understand how they are talking about how the global picture is changing and how they are planning to prepare us for what is coming. So that's on Congressional Dish. And then I also just want to let you guys know, we are all here on this panel big fans of C-SPAN.
Yeah.
Yeah. C-SPAN has some anonymous Richie Rich who has offered to give C-SPAN $25,000 if during C-SPAN's current fundraising push, they can get $25,000. So basically we donate and he will match
funds,
it. Yeah. Yes. So this fundraiser goes until the end of August, and I just checked on it, and C-SPAN's only halfway there. So I just wanted to let people know that you can basically double your money to C-SPAN, because as Justin and I have talked to the people at C-SPAN many times, like it's funded by cable, but all of us are cord cutting. So if you're a cord cutter who wants C-SPAN to exist, because that archive, I think, is one of the most important things in this country, please go to cspan.org/donate and help him out. We only have until the end of the month to get this rich guy's money.
This is not a conjecture, because we've had the conversations with the people that are responsible to this.
Yeah.
C-SPAN is entering into a new phase where they used to just be at the largesse of the cable companies. That is changing. They are going to have to move into a direct appeal fundraising level. We very much want to be at the forefront of it because we very much believe that C-SPAN is not just a special company, maybe the most important media company in America. And they are not big. They're very lean. They go to Costco to stock their skybox.
They do.
And then immediately usher everybody out because their skybox is also where they shoot their after convention coverage. It is very mom and pop. It is very no frills. Please support them.
Yeah. And there's not some foundation sitting between your donation and C-SPAN. 100% goes to C-SPAN.
Yeah.
So yeah, think about it.
And also they have us in their skybox. And also Howard emailed me today inviting us back to their skybox for the DNC.
I will be there.
Yes.
He followed me on Twitter. I DM'd him.
Mm-hmm.
He DM'd me back.
Good.
I said how much you two love him. And he said it was very nice. That's
Yes.
my extent.
You really do.
Soon I will become
He'll
friends
love
with
you.
Howard.
He'll love you too.
And
Yeah.
it's not just Howard, it's every single person I've met there.
They're all
the
dolls.
best people with the best motivations. It's an organization that I want to exist exactly how it is. And I don't want them to have to make changes because of money. And the more of us cut cable, the more likely that becomes. So we should support them directly.
Heaton.
On the political orphanage this week, we are doing a fun story on how El Salvador got rid of a massive, massive drug cartel. If you've heard of MS-13 and the heinous things that they were apparently doing, I learned some heinous things with the guest this week. They had a super draconian crackdown in El Salvador that I am conflicted on. And I wanted to do the episode on that because on the one hand, El Salvador had the highest murder rate in the world, like outpacing Chechnya, Afghanistan. Think of any other hot zone in the world. El Salvador was on top of that and had these really brutal, awful gangs. And the way they handled it was they basically inverted guilty until proven innocent for a while, or innocent until proven guilty for a while, where they went in and just had judges accompany SWAT teams and would go into the barrio and go tattoo prison, tattoo prison.
Guilty. Yeah.
And I am very much a civil liberties guy. And so I'm bothered by this, but there's a part of me that goes, on the other hand, sure would hate being repeatedly raped and tortured by a gang. So I'm trying to kind of sort that out of my mind. And it's an interesting episode on how bad does the world have to get before you start to go, we can't have these highfalutin ideas anymore. And I didn't really arrive at a firm place on my own threshold.
The conversations I've had about this, the best way that I could wrap my head around it is that El Salvador and their new president essentially just said, oh, wait, no, the government's a gang. And our gang is more powerful than MS-13. So we're going to act like we were a rival gang that is trying to get you off our corners. Except we are able to hold you in. Basically, you don't have prisons. We have prisons. And they not only suspended civil liberties, but they very specifically humiliated them on television. Like there are all these pictures and videos that you can see of them basically making all these MS-13
They do this
gang
weird
members
thing where they make them like run while hunched over,
where they're essentially naked and they're putting their heads in each other's butts. Like it's a very Latin American, like we are going to demoralize you. This is not something that you should ever look up to kind of thing. But yeah, full suspension. And like the stories I've heard, even that's the tame side.
Yeah.
The tame side is the suspension of civil liberties and putting a bunch of people in jail and making them strip naked and putting their head in each other's butts. That's tame. Like gangland murders.
Yeah, the stuff we couldn't confirm that we don't go into, but the stuff that I couldn't confirm that I mentioned is I've heard that there was like hey, like we're going to arrest people and like then we'll work it out, and then just like murdered families. Like gangland style, like we are the big gang kind of thing. And also Bukele, who's the president over there, and to my knowledge, what I'm about to say is not contested by any civil rights groups. It's like a 92% approval rating. Like apparently he's very, very, very popular with the country.
And I saw something on YouTube. It was this older woman. She had to be in her like 70s, if not 80s. And she was talking about how her son had gotten taken by the government. And she was like, but you know what? They'll find out that he's innocent. It's fine. They'll let him out. But like the safety that the rest of us have, like we all support this. And I was like, but your son's in prison.
Well,
and she supported it completely.
The point of the episode is on the flip side, I've also seen content from people that are like, my daughter was a college student. She's in prison. I haven't seen her for a year. And it like, you start to have to ask these questions of like, how much innocent collateral damage are we willing to do to knock this out? Because like it would be terrifying to me if they just went, oh, you got a beard, you're probably in a gang, you're in prison, and like I'm there for 5 years, no one knows where I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are anecdotal reports. I don't know if I haven't seen hard numbers on it, that for the first time in like decades, there is an influx of migration of El Salvadorians who lived in America that are like, oh, fuck. Like if I can live in El Salvador and it's safe, I would rather do that. I don't want to live in Glendale. I'd rather live in El Salvador.
Which, fun fact, that's where MS-13 is from, Los Angeles.
Yeah.
They got started in LA.
Yeah.
I should have put that in my fucking book.
I knew about 'em.
I wrote a whole book about how awful LA is. I didn't even realize MS-13.
Yeah.
Hometown of MS-13, Los Angeles.
They started there and then they came back home and
it's a proof of concept,
recruited.
though, because a lot of people have been saying, especially in the Democratic Party for years, that the solution to people coming up from El Salvador and Honduras, like the triangle down there, has been to like fix those countries and make them nice places to live. And now you're actually seeing that it's true, because the people don't want to come to America. They want to live at home. They just don't want to die.
I don't
know about these tactics.
I don't know if any Democratic mainstream person would agree with his tactics per se.
Exactly. But the idea of make the home country safe and they'll stay there, there's some truth to that.
I think if you were to end the drug war, I know this is not going to be popular on either party, but if you ended the drug war and you got rid of agricultural subsidies, you'd do two things. One, you'd remove the profit incentive that is massive within, like you would, so much of the money that's in drugs right now is because it's illegal and I have to have a private army to protect the shipping lanes. If you legalize it in the United States, that disappears and all of a sudden it makes the drug gangs irrelevant. You couple that with getting rid of agricultural subsidies, poorer countries, the only thing poorer countries can compete with the United States on is cheaper labor. And so you have a situation then where rather than having agricultural subsidies price out all of the competition south of the border, they can actually compete on that and they're able to build up their own infrastructure, their own economy, and they have less reason to come into the United States.
Makes sense to me.
That's it. That's it for us. Guys.
Here we go.
For Jen Briney and Andrew Heaton, I'm Justin Robert Young. See you in Chicago, because we're not wrong.